Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to start our 7th lesson, that is my grandfather. It is written by William Butler Yeats. Yeats was an Irish poet, and he has written many essays as well. In this essay, Yeats has drawn the character sketch of his grandfather and grandmother, and he has shared the fears and memories of his childhood, and basically he's trying to bring his reader to a point that the memories of childhood shatters the confidence of a man. And this essay has been taken from Yeats' autobiography and titled Reveries Our Childhood and Youth. My first memories are fragmentary and isolated and contemporaneous, as though one remembered some first moments of the 7 days. It seems as if time had not yet been created, for all thoughts connected with emotion and place are without sequence. The memories the writer has shared are fragmentary and isolated, and I remember sitting upon somebody's knee, looking out of an Irish window at a wall covered with cracked and falling plaster, but what wall I do not remember, and being told that some relation once lived there. I am looking out of a window in London. It is at Fitzroy Road. Some boys are playing in the road, and among them a boy in uniform, a telegraph boy perhaps. When I ask who the boy is, a servant tells me that he is going to blow the town up, and I go to sleep in terror. The very first memory that writer has shared of his childhood, when he was looking out of a window, some boys were playing in the road, and among them a boy was in uniform. When the writer asked who the boy is, a servant told him that he is going to blow the town up, and the writer went to sleep in terror. And you have seen that it was told by the purpose of scaring the writer, and this very first memory perhaps foreshadows that he was being scared of other people, and he always remained afraid, whatever the perception or the idea about other people has been put into his mind, and during his childhood. So after that come memories of Sligo, where I live with my grandparents. I am sitting on the ground looking at a mastless toy boat with the paint rubbed and scratched, and I say to myself in great melancholy. Melancholy means in loneliness. It is further away than it used to be, and while I am saying it, I am looking at a long scratch in the stern, for it is especially the scratch which is further away. Then one day at dinner, my grand uncle William Middleton says we should not make light of the troubles of children. They are worse than ours because we can see the end of our trouble, and they can never see any end. And I feel grateful, for I know that I am very happy, and have often said to myself, when you grow up, never talk as grown up people do of the happiness of childhood. I may have already had the night of misery when, having prayed for several days that I might die, I began to be afraid that I was dying, and prayed that I might live. There was no reason for my unhappiness. Nobody was unkind, and my grandmother has still, after so many years, my gratitude and my reverence. The house was so big that there was always a room to hide in, and I had a red pony and a garden where I could wander, and there were two dogs to follow at my heels. One white with some black spots on his head, and the other with long black hair all over him. I used to think that about God, and fancy that I was very wicked. And one day, when I threw a stone and hit a duck in the yard by mischance and broke its wing, I was full of wonder when I was told that the duck would be cooked for dinner, and that I should not be punished. Some of my misery was loneliness, and some of it fear of old William Pollexfen, my grandfather. He was never unkind, and I cannot remember that he ever spoke harshly to me, but it was the custom to fear and admire him. He had won the freedom of some Spanish city for saving life, perhaps, but was so silent that his wife never knew it till he was near 80. And then from the chance visit of some old sailor, she asked him if it was true, and he said it was true, but she knew him too well to question, and his old shipmate had left the town. She too had the habit of fear, we knew that he had been in many parts of the world, for there was a great scar on his hand made by a whaling hook, and in the dining room was a cabinet with bits of coral in it and a jar of water from the Jordan uh, for the baptizing of his children, and Chinese pictures upon rice paper, and an ivory walking stick from India that came to me after his death. These things show that he has been to all parts of the world. And he has collected a lot of things from different countries. He had great physical strength and had the reputation of never ordering a man to do anything he would not do himself. He owned many sailing ships, and once, when a captain just come to anchor at Rosie's Point reported something wrong with the rudder, had sent a messenger to say, "Send a man down to find out what's wrong." The crew all refused was the answer, and to that my grandfather answered, "Go down yourself." And not being obeyed, he dived from the main deck. All the neighborhood lined along the pebbles of the shore. He came up with his skin torn but well informed about the radar. He had a violent temper and kept a hatchet at his bedside for burglars, and would knock a man down instead of going to law. And I once saw him hunt a party of men with a horsewhip. He had no relation, for he was only a child, and being solitary and silent, he had few friends. He corresponded with Campbell of Oile, who had befriended him and his crew after a shipwreck, and Captain Webb, and the first man who had swum the channel and who was drowned swimming the Niagara Rapids, had been a mate in his employ and a close friend. This is all the friends I can remember, and yet he was so looked up to and admired that when he returned from taking the water at Bath, his men would light bonfire along the railway line for miles, while his partner William Middleton, whose father, after the Great Famine, had attended the sick for weeks and taken cholera from a man he carried in his arms into his own house and died of it, and was himself civil to everybody and a cleverer man than my grandfather, came and went without notice. I think I confused my grandfather with God, for I remember in one of my attacks of melancholy praying that he might punish me for my sins, and I was shocked and astonished when, during little girl, a cousin, I think, having waited under a group of trees in the avenue where she knew he would pass near 4 o'clock on the way to his dinner, said to him, "If I were you and you were a little girl, I would give you a doll." So you have seen in this paragraph, the writer has shared the memories of Lico, where he was living with his grandparents, and once at dinner table, his great uncle William Middleton said that the elders should consider the problems of children because they cannot see the end of their trouble. These are very important lines from this essay. This showed that um, the uncle of the writer has a soft corner for the children as well in his heart. Writer remained unhappy during his childhood, and nobody was unkind to him. We can witness his fear from the incident that he has shared one day. As he has shared it as, one day he hit a duck by stone and he was fearful that he would be punished, but when he came to know that duck would be cooked for dinner, he was and he would not be punished. He was very surprised. And another thing that is being highlighted in this paragraph, that grandfather was always admired because it was custom to fear and admire him. Writer was so confused that he took grandfather as God, that he would that the grandfather would punish him for his sins. So he was very confused. It was because of the fear that he has for his grandfather, and he was always afraid of his grandfather, and he remained confused throughout his childhood. He didn't know what to do in front of him, and he remained quiet in front of him. And this shows that during that time elders were admired, and it was the custom to respect the elders. And yet, for all my admiration and alarm, neither I nor anyone else thought it wrong to outwit his violence or his vigor, and his lack of suspicion and something helpless about him made that easy. while it stirred our affection. When I must have been still a very little boy, 7 or 8 years old perhaps, an uncle called me out of bed one night to ride the 5 or 6 miles to Rose's Point to borrow a railway pass from a cousin. My grandfather had one, but though it dishonest to let another use it. But the cousin was not so particular. I was let out through a gate that they opened upon a little lane beside the garden, away from earshot of the house, and rode delighted through the moonlight, and awoke my cousin in the small hours by tapping on his window with a whip. I was home again by 2 or 3 in the morning, and found the coachman waiting in the little lane. My grandfather would not have thought such an adventure possible, for every night at 8 he believed that the stable yard was locked, and he knew that he was brought the key. Some servant had once got into trouble at night, and so he had arranged that they should all be locked in. He never knew what everybody else in the house knew, that for all the ceremonious bringing of the key, the gate was never locked. Even today, when I read King Lear, his image is always before me, and I often wonder if the delight in passionate men in my plays and in my poetry is more than his memory. He must have been so. Girls, King Lear is a drama by Shakespeare. He must have been ignorant, though I could not judge him in my childhood, for he had run away to sea when a boy, gone to sea through a household, so as he phrased it, and I can but remember him with two books, his Bible and Falconer's Shipwreck, a little green covered book that lay always upon his table. He belonged to some younger branch of an old Cornish family. His father had been in the army, had retired to become an owner of sailing ships, and an engraving of some old family place my grandfather thought should have been his hung next to a painted coat of arms in the little back parlour. His mother had been a Wexford woman, and there was a tradition that his family had been linked with Ireland for generations, and once had their share in the old Spanish trade with Galway. He had a good deal of pride and disliked his neighbours, whereas his wife, Middleton, was gentle and patient, and did many charities in the little back parlour among Friscots and shawled heads. And every night when she saw him asleep, went the round of the house alone with a candle to make certain there was no butler in danger of the hatchet. She was a true lover of her garden, and before the care of the house had grown upon her, would chose some favorite among her flowers and copy it upon rice paper. This shows that she was lover of nature. I saw some of her handiwork the other day, and I wondered at the delicacy of form and color, and at the handling that may have needed a magnifying glass. It was so minute. I can remember no other picture but the Chinese painting and some colored prints of battles in the stamina upon the wall of a passage, and the painting of a ship at the passage and darkened by time. My grown-up uncles and aunts, my grandfather's many sons and daughters, came and went, and almost all they said or did has faded from my memory, except a few harsh words that convinced me by vividness out of proportion to their harshness that all were habitually kind and considerate. The youngest of my uncles was stout and humorous, and has a tongue of leather over the keyhole of his door to keep the draught out. And another, whose bedroom was at the end of his long stone passage, had a model turret ship in a glass case. He was a clever man, and had designed this Lego quest, but was no going mad, and in inventing a vessel of war that could not be sunk. His pamphlet explained, because of a hull of solid wood. Only 6 months ago my sister awoke dreaming that she held a wingless sea bird in her arms, and presently she heard that he had died in his madhouse, for a sea bird is the omen that announces the death or danger of a Plexfin. And Uncle George Plexfin, afterwards astrologer and mystic, and my dear friend, came but seldom from Ballina, once to a race meeting with two postilions dressed in green, and there was that younger uncle who had sent me for the railway pass. He was my grandfather's favorite and had the servants told me being sent away from school for taking a crowbar to a bully. So in this paragraph you have seen that people admired grandfather and they were afraid of him, but his strong personality could not stop people to cheat him. They constantly cheating their grandfather, and every night at 8 the key of the stable door was presented to him, and he was sure that it has been locked, but it was never locked. And in this paragraph, writer has also drawn the character sketch of his grandmother. She loved gardening and she was very kind, affectionate and sympathetic woman, and she did charity among needy. This shows that she has kindness in her heart for needy and poor people, and she wanted to keep the burglar away from the anger of her husband. And this question has been placed many times in the examination of Punjab University, that what is the difference between the character sketch of grandfather and grandmother. So you have to prepare it for that as well. And I can only remember my grandmother punishing me once. I was playing in the kitchen and a servant in horseplay pulled my shirt out of my trousers in front just as my grandmother came in, and I, accused of I knew not what childish indecency, was given my dinner in a room by myself. But I was always afraid of my uncles and aunts, and once the uncle who had taken the crowbar to the bully found me eating lunch which my grandmother had given me and reproved me for it and made me ashamed. We breakfasted at 9 and dined at 4, and it was considered self-indulgent to eat anything between meals. And once an aunt told me that I had reined in my pony and struck it at the same moment, that I might show it off as I rode through the town, and because I had been accused of what I thought a very dark time, had a night of misery. Indeed, I remember little of childhood but its pain. I have grown happier with every year of life, as though gradually conquering something in myself, for certainly my miseries were not made by others but were a part of my own mind. So in this last paragraph, the only thing he remembered about his grandmother, that she punished him once and very lightly. The writer became very happy man as he grew up, and then realized that all the miseries of his childhood were subjective and not objective, and this means that they were self-made and not real. He remembered the childhood memories in bits and parts, and they were not very clear to him. And the writer has learned a lot both from his both of the grandparents, and he learned the value of the discipline that has been maintained by his grandfather at his house. And he has also learned the human love and care for children, as well as he has also learned the appreciation of nature from his grandmother. And he has in this lesson includes a comparison of his grandmother with his grandfather in order to show that grandparents love and affection has a great role in the life of the children. And you might have seen that a very beautiful lesson has been taught in this essay, that we should pay attention to the mental problems and troubles of little children. And the personality of a man, you can see it's like a building, and its foundations are laid in the very early years of a man's life. And most of the time psychologist says that first 5 years are very important in every person's life, and these first 5 years of life make the whole personality of a man when he grew up. And we should keep in notice the loneliness and insecurities, and they should be properly dealt. And the writer himself was worried as a child with many. Moreover, we have learned from this essay that the characters of family elders like grandfather, grandmother foster a strong effect on the personalities of the kids, and their the shadow of the characters of the elders make the personality of the children, and their kindness and love can be the source of strength and confidence for kids. If the if the children are happy and they are confident in their childhood, they will be same in their later years of life. But if they are afraid and they are being scared of different things in their early years, they will not be confident in later years of their life. Their confidence will be shattered. So they should have a close relation, elders should have a close relation with children to give them the energy to go on in life. And on the whole, this is a very deep essay with a strong insight into the construction of human mind. And another thing that is very important, that you have seen that the writer has used window as a symbol. Perhaps he's trying to bring our attention towards towards a very important thing, that everyone should have these windows to ventilate the suppressed emotions that are present in their conscious, unconscious, or subconscious, uh, uh, and pains that are present there. They should ventilate these emotions from their own minds, and that's why he has started this essay from the first memory when he was looking out of a window. So this window is the symbol of some window that is in mind to ventilate the suppressed thing. And this was the complete message of the essay, my grandfather. And I hope you will complete the exercise of this essay and prepare the important question that I have explained you during the lecture for your exams as well. Thank you. I hope you have comprehended this essay and try to complete the exercise of this lesson, and prepare the questions that I have told you during this lecture that are important for your exams. Thank you.